On Xivalon Prime, where the galactic educational complex thrived as a beacon of universal knowledge, the air buzzed with a peculiar tension. Today's lesson promised more than enlightenment, it carried the weight of galactic curiosity and trepidation. Students from countless species convened there to exchange ideas, learn about each other's cultures, and explore the vast unknowns of the galaxy. The lecture halls were immense, equipped with holographic projectors and multi-environment chambers to accommodate species from gas giants, aquatic worlds, and everything in between. However, nothing had prepared the institution for the arrival of humanity and their peculiar practices. Professor Vilcrix, an 8-limbed Arthrolian with translucent skin that pulsed with irritation, hovered at the center of the amphitheater. The professor's compound eyes scanned the diverse student body as they chittered, hummed, and clicked in their respective languages. The usual chatter was louder today, filled with anticipation and a hint of apprehension. The reason for the buzz was clear. The humans, the galaxy's newest members, were about to present their cultural showcase, an event shrouded in curiosity and apprehension due to their species' infamous unpredictability. Humanity, hailing from the infamous death world known as Earth, had already garnered a reputation for their bizarre resilience and unconventional behavior. But today they were unveiling something the galaxy had never encountered before. "Settle down, class," Professor Vilcrix's voice echoed, aided by the translation matrix that converted their hisses into a universal language. "Today we will witness the cultural presentation from our human students. Please remember they come from a high-gravity, predator-rich world and their customs may seem unconventional." A wave of excitement and trepidation rippled through the audience. Many of the alien students had already exchanged rumors about humans' peculiar habits, from their love of exploring inhospitable terrains to their seemingly inexplicable emotional attachments to lesser creatures. The latter had been a subject of much debate in the dormitories. The human delegation entered, led by Emma Harris, a bright-eyed young woman with a wide grin. Behind her was a small group of fellow humans, each holding or guiding something, and that something immediately triggered a wave of shocked reactions. Trailing Emma was Max, a massive dog with thick black fur that glistened under the overhead lights. His tail wagged with unbridled enthusiasm as his tongue lolled out, a picture of energy and joy that seemed entirely at odds with his imposing size. Behind Max came Leo, a mischievous-looking ferret perched on the shoulder of a lanky man named Alex. Then there was Sophie, carrying a sleek black cat named Luna in her arms, and lastly Adam, who had what appeared to be a snake coiled lazily around his wrist. The aliens recoiled, their varied appendages twitching in horror. The Glavathian coiled tighter into its seat, its scales rattling like a warning. The gelatinous Corlean rippled violently, shifting hues in distress, while a feathered Avianthian squawked and flared its wings in an instinctive display of intimidation. Each reaction was a testament to their deep-rooted fear of predators. "They've brought predators into the classroom." A voice clicked from the amphitheater, belonging to a scaly, serpentine Glavathian who instinctively coiled tighter around their seat. "Predators? These are apex predators," another voice exclaimed, this time a Corlean, whose gelatinous form quivered as its eyes blinked in rapid succession. "Why are they so calm? Surely these creatures are ready to pounce." Emma raised her hands in a calming gesture, though she was visibly amused by the reactions. "Please everyone, there's no need to panic. These are our pets, domesticated animals we share our lives with. They're completely harmless." "Harmless?" Professor Vilcrix's voice crackled with incredulity. The Arthrolian's limbs twitched nervously. "You brought a creature with fangs larger than a Zinxian spear and you call it harmless?" Emma gestured to Max, who was sitting obediently by her side. "This is Max. He's a dog, specifically a Labrador Retriever. Dogs have been companions to humans for thousands of years. He's trained to listen to commands and wouldn't harm anyone without reason." The audience's collective disbelief was almost palpable. One of the students, a furry Tarlaxian with oversized ears, raised their paw. "Why would your species keep predators as companions? Surely this endangers your own survival?" Alex, with Leo still scampering along his arm, stepped forward. "It's not just about survival. Humans and animals have a symbiotic relationship. Over centuries we've formed bonds based on trust and companionship. These animals aren't just pets, they're family." The term family caused an uproar of clicks, hums, and squeals as the concept was processed by the translation matrices. To many of the alien species present, familial bonds were limited strictly to those of direct genetic lineage, and the idea of forming such a deep attachment with an entirely different species was not just puzzling, it bordered on heretical. The notion seemed to challenge fundamental principles of survival and resource prioritization in ways they struggled to comprehend. Among many species in the galaxy, family bonds were reserved strictly for genetic kin, and the idea of extending such attachment to unrelated organisms was utterly alien. But these creatures, they're dangerous, insisted the Glavathian, their scales bristling. Surely you cannot fully trust them. What if they revert to their instincts? Sophie gently stroked Luna's fur, eliciting a contented purr from the cat. That's the thing about trust. It's built, not given freely. Luna here might have instincts, but she's also learned to coexist with humans. We understand each other. Professor Vilcrix interjected, their translucent skin shifting to a skeptical shade of green. I'm struggling to understand how this benefits your species. Surely maintaining these relationships consumes resources that could be better spent elsewhere? Adam, the one with the snake, responded with a grin. It's not just about resources. Pets like these provide emotional support, companionship, and even protection. They've saved countless human lives throughout history. For example, dogs have been trained to guide the visually impaired or detect medical conditions. Max here could probably find someone lost in the wilderness faster than any of us could. The alien's reactions shifted from incredulity to a kind of horrified fascination. The idea that humans not only survived on a death world but thrived alongside other predators was difficult to process. To them, it was akin to living with the very forces that sought to destroy you. Emma saw the hesitance and decided to demonstrate. She reached into her bag and pulled out a brightly colored ball. "Watch this," she said, tossing it across the room. Max immediately bolted after it, his claws skittering against the smooth floor. He retrieved the ball and returned it to Emma, wagging his tail furiously. The audience gasped. "It obeys commands?" one of the students squealed. "Not just commands," Emma said, laughing. "It's a game. We call it fetch. It's something dogs love to do, and it strengthens the bond between us." The Corlean, still quivering, asked, "So this is play? It derives enjoyment from such interactions?" "Exactly," Alex said, letting Leo scurry onto the table. "Humans and animals play together, work together, and live together. It's part of who we are." Professor Vilcrix sighed, their limbs drooping slightly in resignation. "Very well. While I find your customs perplexing, I must admit they are intriguing. Let us continue this demonstration. Perhaps there is more to learn from humanity's peculiar ways than we first assumed." As the humans prepared to showcase more of their pets' abilities and histories, the alien students leaned forward, equal parts horrified and captivated. For better or worse, humanity had made its mark once again. The air in the amphitheater buzzed with a tense anticipation, the alien students torn between their lingering horror at the predators and a reluctant curiosity about what humanity would reveal next. The alien students, still reeling from the sight of Earth's predators casually roaming among their human handlers, sat frozen in a mixture of horror and fascination. Professor Vilcrix, whose translucent limbs twitched with suppressed agitation, signaled for the room to settle. "Very well," the professor said, their compound eyes narrowing slightly. "Let us proceed with your demonstration. Perhaps there is value to be found in these perplexing relationships of yours." Emma exchanged a quick glance with her team, her confidence unwavering. "Thank you, Professor. Now that we've introduced our companions, we'd like to show you some of the practical ways humans and animals have worked together to survive and thrive on Earth." Alex stepped forward, letting his ferret Leo dart across his arm with nimble precision before coming to rest on his shoulder, his small paws clutching at the fabric as he surveyed the room. "This little guy might not look like much," Alex began, gesturing to Leo, "but ferrets like him have helped humans in all kinds of ways. For example, they've been used to run wires through small spaces in construction projects or even locate objects in tight quarters. Their agility and intelligence make them indispensable in situations where machines can't operate." The alien students exchanged incredulous looks. A tall, crystalline Irindian raised a shimmering appendage. "You are telling us that this creature, this predator, has practical utility in your society? You willingly allow it to perform tasks alongside you?" "That's exactly right," Alex replied with a grin. "And they're not the only ones. Humanity has a long history of building relationships with animals to accomplish things we couldn't do alone." Emma chimed in. "Take Max, for instance. Dogs like him have been used in search and rescue missions, bomb detection, and even therapy. Their loyalty and intelligence make them incredible partners." She gestured for Max to demonstrate, tossing a small pouch of simulated debris onto the floor. "Max, seek." The dog's ears perked up, and he sniffed the air before trotting confidently toward the pouch. Within moments he had retrieved it and returned it to Emma, his tail wagging furiously. The amphitheater erupted in murmurs of disbelief. A biological entity acting as a tool? Professor Vilcrix murmured, their translucent skin rippling in shades of disbelief. Your species must have developed extraordinary measures of control to ensure compliance. Surely these creatures act out of fear or coercion? Adam, who had remained quiet until now, stepped forward with the snake coiled around his wrist. Not fear. It's about mutual benefit. We provide them with food, shelter, and care, and in return they offer companionship, protection, or even specialized skills. Take Luna, for example. He nodded toward Sophie and her sleek black cat. Sophie lifted Luna slightly. Cats have a long history with humans too. They helped control pests in ancient civilizations, and over time, we formed bonds that go beyond utility. Now they're companions, and they've even been shown to reduce stress and improve mental health. The mention of mental health drew a confused hum from the audience. One student, a feathery avianthian with bright plumage, raised a wing. Explain. How does this creature affect your psychological well-being? Sophie smiled. When humans interact with animals like Luna, it can trigger the release of chemicals in our brains that reduce stress and anxiety. Just petting a cat or playing with a dog can help calm us down and make us feel happier. It's a bond that works on an emotional level. The aliens' murmurs grew louder, their disbelief rooted in the instincts that had governed their survival for millennia. To them, forming emotional bonds with predators was not just alien but an affront to reason, a gamble against the primal laws of nature they had always obeyed. Among most of their species, survival instincts overrode any inclination to trust a potentially dangerous creature. Professor Vilcrix interjected. This emotional reliance on other species seems inefficient. Surely, there are technologies that can provide the same effects without the inherent risks. Emma nodded, prepared for the question. Technology can replicate some things but not everything. There's something unique about the unpredictability and individuality of animals. They're not just tools, they're partners. They think, feel, and even make decisions. It's that dynamic interaction that enriches our lives in ways machines can't. The professor's skin shifted to a contemplative shade of amber. If what you say is true, then your species has achieved something remarkable. You have turned survival relationships into bonds of cooperation. But surely there must be failures? Adam shrugged. Of course. No relationship is perfect. There are risks and sometimes animals act on instinct. But that's part of the trust we build. It's not blind trust, it's understanding and respect. To emphasize his point, Adam gently stroked the snake's scales, the smooth texture a tangible symbol of the trust they had cultivated. The snake's contented movement was more than instinct. It was an expression of the unspoken understanding between species. The sight made several alien students recoil again, but a few leaned forward, intrigued. The Corleon's gelatinous form quivered as they raised an eye stalk. Do these creatures ever act altruistically? Or is their cooperation purely transactional? Alex stepped back into the spotlight. That's a great question. There are countless examples of animals risking their lives to save humans. Dogs have pulled people from burning buildings, dolphins have protected swimmers from sharks, and even birds have alerted humans to dangers. These aren't just transactions, they're acts of loyalty and connection. The murmurs intensified. For a species to cultivate such relationships, not out of necessity but choice, was unfathomable to many of the alien students. A crystalline Erindian's appendage rose, glinting in the amphitheater's light. Your predators behave like prey in your presence. Have they truly forgotten their nature, or is this a facade? Emma's expression softened. They haven't forgotten. Max is still a predator and Luna still has instincts. But they choose to live with us because we've created an environment where trust outweighs fear. That's the point of domestication. It's not about erasing nature, it's about finding balance. Professor Vilcrix's limbs quivered slightly as their translucent skin cycled through muted shades of thought. Gradually, the tension in their posture eased, their tone softening to one of reluctant admiration. The shift was slow, a measured concession to the human's perplexing logic. Your species is peculiar, humans. To build such bonds with creatures that could harm you, it defies logic. And yet it seems to work. Perhaps there is more to learn from this trust of yours than I first assumed. The amphitheater fell into a contemplative silence, broken only by the occasional hum or chirp of alien students processing the presentation. For humanity, this was just another step in proving their place in the galactic community. For the aliens, it was a glimpse into the boundless possibilities of cooperation, even in the most unlikely circumstances. The contemplative silence that followed the humans' demonstration was short-lived. As the alien students mulled over what they had just witnessed, the amphitheater's atmosphere shifted again, a mix of hesitant intrigue and lingering unease. Professor Vilcrix, still perched at the center of the room, flicked a translucent limb to re-establish control. "Very well," they said, their tone now carrying a hint of reluctant curiosity. "Your companions are evidently more than mere predators, but I remain unconvinced that this balance you speak of is sustainable. Perhaps you could elaborate further on how such bonds are maintained in the long term." Emma nodded, her confidence unwavering. "Of course, Professor. Trust is a gradual process, strengthened through shared experiences and consistent understanding. It requires effort from both sides to build a lasting bond. This process requires consistency and effort from both sides. It's not something that just happens, it takes work." She glanced at Max, who sat attentively at her side, tail wagging with unshakable loyalty. Alex stepped forward again, adjusting Leo's position on his shoulder. "Take ferrets, for instance. They're naturally independent and curious creatures. To earn their cooperation, humans learn to work with their instincts instead of against them. It's about understanding their needs and making them feel secure. That's what creates a bond that lasts." The crystalline Irindian raised their shimmering appendage again. "You speak of instincts, but predators are inherently dangerous. How do you ensure they do not revert?" Adam, his snake now resting lazily around his neck, addressed the question with measured calm. "Instinct is a part of nature and we respect that. But domestication isn't about suppressing instincts, it's about channeling them. For instance, Luna here," he gestured to Sophie and her sleek black cat, "retains her hunting instincts, but she's learned to express them in a way that's compatible with human life." Sophie added, "It's like teaching a language. Animals learn to communicate their needs and instincts in ways we can understand, and humans in turn adapt to meet those needs. This mutual adaptation is a cornerstone of our relationships, fostering a deeper connection beyond mere instinct." This explanation seemed to spark an unexpected question from a gelatinous Corlean. "If you claim these creatures are so adaptable, does this mean you consider them equals?" The question hung in the air, eliciting a brief pause from the human presenters. Emma finally broke the silence. "That's a complicated question. We don't see animals as equals in the same way we see other humans, but we do respect them as living beings with their own thoughts, emotions, and needs. It's less about hierarchy and more about partnership." The amphitheater filled with a variety of reactions. The crystalline Irindian's facets dimmed in contemplation, the gelatinous Corlean rippled with faint curiosity, and the avianthian ruffled its feathers in what seemed like instinctive disbelief. Each species grappled with the concept in their own way, reflecting their unique cultural lenses. For many of them, the concept of partnership with another species, especially predators, remained baffling. Among most galactic civilizations, relationships with other life forms were strictly transactional, rooted in necessity rather than mutual respect. Professor Vilcrix's skin rippled with a mix of colors as they considered this. "I must admit your responses are intriguing. But I remain skeptical. Surely there have been catastrophic failures in these relationships. Perhaps you could address this." Adam nodded. "Absolutely. No relationship is without risks. There have been instances where animals acted on their instincts in ways that caused harm. That's why humans take precautions like training and creating environments that minimize those risks. It's a delicate balance, but the benefits far outweigh the challenges." Emma interjected, "What makes these relationships unique is that they're built on adaptability. Both humans and animals learn from their mistakes. When something goes wrong, we find solutions together. That's how we grow stronger." As the humans spoke, a feathery avianthian flared their wings, their sharp beak clicking in thought. "And what of loyalty? How do you ensure these predators remain loyal to your kind and do not turn on you?" Sophie smiled and stroked Luna, who purred softly in response. "Loyalty is not a given, it grows from trust and understanding. Animals like Luna stay with us because they find security and value in the relationship we cultivate through mutual respect. It's not about dominance, it's about creating a relationship where loyalty is natural." This response seemed to strike a chord with the alien audience. The idea of a predator choosing trust over fear was almost incomprehensible, but it also carried an undeniable allure. The Corlean's gelatinous form shimmered faintly. "This concept of mutual loyalty, it is unlike anything our species has known. Perhaps this is why your kind has thrived in such hostile conditions." Emma seized the moment. "Exactly. Humanity's resilience stems from our adaptability and our commitment to forming partnerships. Be it with fellow humans, animals, or entirely different species, we excel by embracing diversity and overcoming challenges through collaboration. It's not always easy, but it's what makes us resilient. The crystalline Irindian's appendage rose once more. Your explanations are compelling, but I find it difficult to believe that such relationships could scale beyond individual bonds. How does this philosophy apply to larger societal structures? Alex took the lead. That's a great question. The principles of trust, cooperation, and mutual respect extend beyond just humans and animals. They're the foundation of how we build communities and societies. We believe that diversity, whether it's among people or species, makes us stronger. Adam added, and that's why we're here sharing this with you. We believe the same principles that guide our relationships with animals can also guide how we interact with other species in the galaxy. It's about finding common ground and building partnerships, even when it seems unlikely. Professor Vilcrix's limbs twitched thoughtfully, their translucent skin shifting to a contemplative green. You present a compelling argument, humans. Perhaps there is merit in your philosophy of partnership and trust. But tell me this. They paused, their compound eyes gleaming. Do you believe the same principles could apply to those who see you as predators? The question sent a ripple through the amphitheater. The human presenters exchanged glances, each contemplating the weight of the inquiry. Finally, Emma stepped forward, her voice steady. Yes, we do. Trust isn't just about taming predators or forming alliances. It's about understanding each other, even when fear and instinct tell us not to. If we can find that understanding, then there's hope for cooperation anywhere. The silence that followed was profound. For the first time, the alien students seemed to truly grasp the depth of humanity's philosophy. It wasn't just about survival on a death world or learning to live alongside predators. It was a demonstration of how humanity transforms fear into understanding and instinct into mutual growth, forging bonds that transcend species and circumstance. And in that moment, a new understanding began to take root in the hearts of the galaxy's youngest minds. The amphitheater remained silent long after Emma's final words. The weight of her statement lingered in the air, a challenge and an invitation to all who heard it. Professor Vilcrix, still perched at the center, slowly unfurled one of their translucent limbs, signaling the floor open for discussion. Yet none of the alien students spoke. The enormity of what the humans proposed seemed to demand a deeper contemplation. It was the avianthian who broke the stillness. With a sharp flick of their wings, they stepped forward, their beak clicking in a rapid rhythm that indicated both hesitation and curiosity. You claim that trust can transcend instinct and fear. But how do you ensure that such a philosophy is not exploited? Surely there are those who would see trust as weakness? Emma's gaze remained steady as she nodded. That's a valid concern, and it's something humanity has faced many times in our history. Trust must be nurtured carefully, as it involves balancing risks with the profound rewards of meaningful connections. It is a process that demands courage and commitment. Though vulnerability is inevitable, the bonds formed often surpass the dangers of remaining isolated. Those who exploit trust eventually face the consequences, because a foundation built on manipulation cannot endure. The avianthian's feathers ruffled as they processed her response, their sharp eyes scanning the other alien students. This time it was the Corlean who responded. Their gelatinous form rippled, shifting hues of pale green and blue as they spoke. In our societies, survival often demands self-interest. To rely on another species, or even members of our own kind, invites vulnerability. How does your kind reconcile such risk? Alex stepped forward, his voice calm yet resolute. By facing the vulnerability you fear, trust creates pathways to cooperation, innovation, and growth. Rather than weakness, vulnerability becomes a foundation for meaningful partnerships that transform fear into connection. He gestured toward Leo, who was now curled contentedly around his neck. Take Leo for example. A ferret isn't inherently inclined to trust a human, but through consistent care and respect, we've built a bond where both of us benefit. The same applies to any relationship, whether it's with animals, humans, or other species. The Irindian's crystalline facets dimmed momentarily before they spoke. Your philosophy is admirable in theory, but practicality often defies ideals. Have you ever faced failure in these bonds you so greatly value? Adam nodded, his expression sober. Absolutely. Trust is fragile, and there have been times when it has been broken. There are times when animals respond purely to instinct or humans falter in their responsibilities. These moments of failure serve as lessons, highlighting the delicate balance of trust and the ongoing effort required to maintain it. But those failures don't negate the value of the bond, they teach us how to do better. Growth stems from learning, and trust is the force that compels us to persevere, even after failure. Professor Vilcrix's translucent skin shifted to a shade of pale green, their version of cautious approval. Your responses are thoughtful, but I remain curious. If this philosophy is as universal as you claim, how do you imagine it changing the dynamics of interspecies relationships in the galaxy? Emma took a deep breath before answering. By demonstrating that diversity is a strength, humanity's partnerships with predators, dogs aiding in rescues or ferrets excelling in intricate tasks, highlight how unlikely bonds lead to remarkable opportunities. These examples offer hope for building bridges with other species across the galaxy. Our differences don't divide us, they give us new perspectives, new ways to grow. The galaxy is vast and no species can thrive in isolation. We need each other. The amphitheater's atmosphere shifted once more. What had begun as skepticism now felt like tentative curiosity, the beginning of a dialogue that had the potential to reshape long-held beliefs. Professor Vilcrix turned to the gathered students, their voice resonating with a tone of quiet authority. You have all witnessed something unique today. Not just a presentation of humanity's customs, but a challenge to the way we perceive relationships across species. I encourage each of you to reflect on what you have learned here. The crystalline Erindian spoke once more, their tone softer. Your presentation has given us much to consider, humans. Perhaps there is wisdom in your ways, though it will take time for such ideas to take root in our cultures. Emma smiled, sensing the subtle shift in the room. That's all we ask, a chance to share our perspective and learn from yours. Trust isn't built overnight, but it starts with understanding. As the discussion wound down, the humans began packing up their demonstration materials. Max wagged his tail energetically as Sophie scratched behind Luna's ears. Leo darted around Alex, eager to explore the edges of the amphitheater. The alien students watched, their expressions a mix of fascination and newfound respect. As the humans prepared to leave, the Corlean approached Emma. Their gelatinous form shimmered faintly as they spoke. Your philosophy is peculiar, but it has merit. Perhaps our kind has more to learn from yours than we realized. Emma nodded, her smile warm. And perhaps we have much to learn from you as well. That's the beauty of trust, it grows both ways. The amphitheater doors opened, and the humans departed, their animal companions trailing behind. The silence that followed was not one of confusion or disbelief, but of contemplation. For the first time, the galaxy's youngest minds envisioned a future where trust became the foundation for bridging insurmountable divides, a future forged by the courage to understand and the determination to connect.